Nube Negra looked like he was going to beat her that day. I think he's going to beat her here. I really do. Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel, and what a weekend of racing we've got to look forward to. It's the November meeting at Cheltenham as well as the Morgiana at Punchestown. ABW. For this side of Christmas, it doesn't get much better than this.
No, not at all, really. You were saying on the audio podcast there yesterday that obviously you love this one, the Dublin Racing Festival, and then Cheltenham in March time. This is a fantastic weekend of racing. Can't wait to be over there myself for all 3 days as well. It's a bit of a treat to be going over. So therefore I just can't wait to get stuck into it. We've both got plenty of bets as well for this weekend as well, which I don't know whether that's dangerous or not, but fingers crossed we can land a couple of winners and have a really good weekend.
Yeah, when we were prepping for this, we both said I quite fancy a few horses this weekend, and we kind of both looked at each other as if unsure whether that was a good thing or not, but hopefully we can pick you a few winners. Last week I put up 5 best bets, 2 of them ran, 2 of them won. In This World looked good at Warwick, and then Win House won at Wincanton as well, beating Under La Seigneur. I tell you what, Rose of Arcadia, who went off really quickly, she'll be winning over 2 miles definitely. But on this video we will be reviewing the weekend's racing, looking ahead to Cheltenham, looking ahead to Punchestown as well. And if you do enjoy it, do hit that like button, it massively helps the channel out. Please do get any fancies you've got down below in the comments, we look forward to reading those, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So let's have a look at the previous weekend's racing, and we'll go to Chantry first with Brewin'upastorm winning impressively. You were quite taken by this. I think the plan now will be the Rail Keel, the National Spirit, and then the Chantry hurdle. I'd imagine he'll bypass Cheltenham because he's not quite quick enough for 2. He's too good for the Coral Cup, and he doesn't stay 3. So it looks like that will be the path. He obviously won the National Spirit last year. He really stamped his authority on that field at Chantry.
Yeah, he did. Now, as you said there the other day, that the field itself maybe wasn't one of the stronger ones of this renewal, but I just was really impressed with the way he quickened away from them. He also jumped a fair bit better than when he was 5th in that Grade 1 over course and distance back in April time. So fingers crossed, if they get him back there, he'd have a better chance. And I just love with this horse, we had the infamous time of Ollie Murphy running up the Fontwell Hill past this, after this horse went past in the National Spirit last year. I don't know whether you saw it on Saturday, but Aidan Coleman was saluting 3 men by the winning post with Brewin'upastorm, and you can just see before the angle cuts away Ollie Murphy giving a big that one to the crowd, which I absolutely loved. It's obviously one of his best horses, and it's great to see him win so easily.
Hunter's cool one today, and I think he got quite emotional as he was at Ollie's when he only had 6 or 8 horses. Now they've got nearly 150. I'm a big fan of Ollie Murphy as a trainer. Over in Ireland, over hurdles, Teahupoo looks potentially like a champion hurdle contender, beating Quilixios. Were you taken by his performance?
Yeah, I was really taken by it. I thought he jumped super, which was great. I think he wasn't right at Fairyhouse last year. At the end of the year, he'd been unbeaten up until then and thought of in very high regard, and he did it really nicely, and he'll certainly be stepping up now into Grade 1 company and see how he goes from there. Quilixios, I just don't like Quilixios, never have, and probably never will as well. He maybe needs a fence, he certainly needs a trip, but he was hanging right as well, which I didn't like throughout the entirety of that race. And Autumn Evening, who's no more than a good handicapper, was going to beat him quite comfortably as well, so I'm not sure I'd be taking him to the well. But the winner himself is smart and well deserves a crack at Grade 1 level.
Where do you think we could see him next?
You'd have to think he'd probably go on to the Matheson hurdle, maybe at Leopardstown over Christmas, maybe an Irish champion hurdle in time. Morgiana's obviously only on Sunday, he's not going to run in that. There's no real other big 2-mile races between then and Christmas. And at the moment, unlike maybe Azana here from the same stable, it doesn't look like he necessarily needs to step up in trip yet. He seems to have plenty of gears, so I'd say maybe the Matheson hurdle at Christmas time.
Eric Bloodaxe made his debut over hurdles, and it was a winning one as well. I'm not 100% sure what trip he's going to be best at. Do you have more of an idea?
Yeah, I think at the moment he looks like he might be a 2.5 mile horse. I just don't know how good this horse is. I'd be really, really interested with Eric Bloodaxe depending on how he's campaigned, whether he might run in a couple of Grade 1s, come up short, and we may see him more so in a county hurdle, a Martin Pipe potentially, as a classy operator in that field. I don't know whether they'll be able to do so and manoeuvre. I just can't see, based off what I've seen so far, that he's going to go and be a Grade 1 winning novice hurdler. He might end up being in that caught in between two stools where he's too good for a handicap but not good enough for maybe a Ballymore or something. So it's going to be hard to see where he ends up going, but I'm sure they'll try graded company, but I'd love to see him maybe lurk back into a handicap come the spring festivals.
And finally, over in Ireland, the 4 to follow cricket score is just growing. My Mate Mozzie was impressive again. I think the Royal Bond's going to be next. He's going to come up against the likes of Mighty Potter. 3-stripe life for Gordon Elliott. Both of those look like they're going there as well. Is My Mate Mozzie, I know you're a big fan of him, is he a Grade 1 winner in waiting?
He might be. He looks a really good horse. I thought he did it lovely at Navan. He has such a great aptitude for jumping and deserves a chance in the Royal Bond, and potentially will go all favourite for it, given that he'll end up entering the race probably with the most achieved over hurdles. I'm not sure whether he maybe wants a little bit of a step up in trip. I'm yet to be decided on that really. I probably need a little bit more evidence, but he's a real nice horse, and I think maybe going right-handed as well will see him to a little bit better effect.
Okay, so over here at Wincanton, I was there. We had a handicap chase to start the day, and then second on the card was Knappers Hill, running off a penalty in a very average novice hurdle. He got the job done, but again, we were both at Chepstow that time, and we watched him, and we were disappointed, I think it's fair to say. His jumping needed scrubbing up, and he still made silly mistakes at Wincanton the other day. It looks like the Kennel Gate's going to be next, and Iron Maximus looked a bit all over the shop today at Exeter when finishing third behind Luttrell Lad and JPR1 for Tizards. But Knappers Hill, I'm not convinced. I can't get a grip on him. He's now rated 130 over hurdles. Could he then be one that Nichols is kind of aiming at? A Betfair hurdle as a novice? It looks like a fairly handy mark, but as you know, at the end of last season I was kind of looking at him going, he could be a real top notcher over hurdles and maybe a Grade 1 novice hurdler. At the moment I don't see that at all. What do you think?
No, I think he'll come up short, certainly with what he's been doing at the moment. You couldn't have him as a Cheltenham proposition whatsoever. As you say, maybe onto that race at Ascot, usually that's not the strongest affair. He could win that or maybe finish second in that, and he could take a Betfair hurdle before running in a Supreme or Ballymore, but I'd be more so waiting potentially towards Aintree rather than Cheltenham and try and avoid a few of the good Irish novices.
I also think that things are coming quite quick to him, maybe hence the jumping mistakes. Maybe an up in trip would be his best bet, maybe something like the Mersey at Aintree. I can't see him as a Cheltenham horse personally. Sceau Royal was very good in the elite hurdle. It's going to be interesting to see if they go to the Fighting Fifth, the International or the Christmas, but he's one of those horses that at the real top level against those tip-top horses and the likes of Put the Kettle On, I feel like he'll always come up short, but he'll mop up these Grade 2 races, and he might just be that tier below the top level, and he was very good again. Chantry House, Sandown. Is he a Gold Cup contender? Look, we probably didn't learn a lot more other than he's well. Big Breakaway is very disappointing. I'm not sure what's happened to him. But Chantry House, it's an interesting, wasn't it? Because he was probably quite fortunate to win at Cheltenham, given on where LM fell. You suspect if he was at his best and he got round, he'd have beaten him. Well, he definitely would have beaten him. And then Aintree, Espoir de Rome was leading 2 out. It looked like Chantry House was in trouble. You're still not 100% sure, does he stay 3 miles? I think the King George will be next on the agenda. I don't think Chantry House has got the credit he deserves. I think he's a better horse than people are giving him credit for. With regards to chases over here, we were discussing on the audio podcast, he's probably the best one that we've got.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he could be well too good for some of the other English 3-milers out there. Very interesting to see where he does go. I know the King George has been cited, but it is a little bit like Nicky Henderson to potentially stray away from a a competitive option, and the King George at the moment is shaping up to be very competitive. I wonder whether they might even stick this horse in the Cotswolds Chase at Cheltenham, over 3 mile 1, usually a bit softer of a race, and you might get that needed Cheltenham experience on trials day, and he might run between then and now, and then have that run and maybe onto a Gold Cup. That's something that's bare in my mind, just because I know that Henderson usually sometimes takes the slightly easier option, but I think he's a good contender, and I think that Betfair Chase in 2 Saturdays time, I'm not sure whether it actually will tell us anything, because I think there's every likelihood that a Bristol de Mai might win it again, and Bristol de Mai is another like a Sceau Royal. God, you'd absolutely love to own him, but he's not going to win a Gold Cup, so it's hard to see where those Gold Cup clues are actually coming from.
Yeah, that Betfair Chase, Champ runs in there, and I think many are looking at the JP battalion with Champ and Chantry House as the main focus towards the Gold Cup. I think that the Betfair Chase is make or break for Champ, and if you're a watcher of the channel, you'll know that I put him up for the Stayers Hurdle. I don't think that is dead. From what I'm hearing, if he runs well, he might stick over fences, but I don't think he will. I don't think he's a great jumper of a fence, and I think they will revert to hurdles. If he does, flatter to deceive. So Champ, that's not out of the running yet. He could run in a Stayers Hurdle down the line. So now let's move on to previewing Cheltenham, the November meeting. We've got decks for the Friday at the time of recording. We don't have decks for the Saturday or the Sunday. What a meeting. What a meeting. We'll go to the first race at 1:10, 2 mile 5 handicap hurdle, and I really like one in here. I think Scatman is going to be very difficult to beat. I couldn't quite believe he got a handicap mark of 122. Now, to put this into perspective, it was a 170 grand purchase by Tom Malone, a shrewd operator, the buyer of Envoire Hélène. He beat Barbados Bucks and Lieutenant Rocco in a point-to-point. Barbados Bucks is now rated 143 over hurdles, and Lieutenant Rocco is rated 147 over fences. He was 9-1 in an Ascot bumper won by Soaring Glory. I think he was second string to Brave Man's Game. His hurdling debut was at Musselburgh in March, and he beat Present and Counting, who's now rated 145 over fences. That was completely off level weights. He's had the run. He won at Newton Abbot, and the second, Idrisil, who's now rated 116, he won off that mark today. That's a boost in the form. He'll like the ground. Lorcan Williams is claiming 3. He's 7-2. I think he's going to win. I would be very disappointed if he didn't. I think he's a much better horse than 122. Lorcan Williams is one of the best conditional jockeys out there, if not the. And I think Scatman's going to get, hopefully, myself off to a flyer at Cheltenham on the Friday. Do you see any holes in him?
I suppose, it's a competitive race. It's a 20-runner conditional jocks handicap hurdle at Cheltenham. They take winning, but he does look well handicapped. You've made a very compelling case, and it keeps getting form boosts left, right and centre. I was actually very interested to see how that Idrisil would run today, and he ended up winning very, very cosy on Chase Teahupoo, now getting a couple of 4-year-old allowances, but he looked quite tidy as well. So he seems to have everything going for him at 7-2, is still a working price. And
viewers of the channel would know that I was disappointed that Pacer Doble was declared for the Persian War, and he was Nicholls' horse. I was hoping Scatman would be that horse. So I think he's very, very good, and I'm hoping he wins the first on Friday. The second race comes at 1:45, and it's a 2 mile handicap chase. Is there one in here that you like?
No, I think it's an open race. A few of these races on the Friday have ended up being extremely strong. I know you're quite sweet on one in there. It's, I suppose Nicholls' horse is a big weight to carry. He won the race last year, and it was maybe a shade more competitive last year. So he's one. I know he's at the top of the market, but he'd certainly have a chance, Magic Saint.
Yeah, I quite like Editor de Gite for Gary Moore. Niall Houlihan claims 5. Editor de Gite is 7-2. Left-handed, good ground, and he'll jump for fun. It's perfect for him. It's absolutely perfect for him. He's had the run. He looked beaten at Ascot when in seating at the last. I still think he's better than 140. It wouldn't surprise me if he was to run in something like the Game Spirit towards the end of the winter. And look, I can see the angle with Silver Forever having Sam Thomas, the trainer, winning a very similar race with Before Midnight at the October meeting. But I'm willing to take him on. I think Editor de Gite is a very good horse. A very good jumper as well, and I think he'll go mightily close, especially with Niall claiming £5 as well, so he'll be running off technically 135. The following race is a 2.5 mile novices chase, and we see the debut of My Drogo over fences. It's 3 runners, Gin on Lime for Henry de Bromhead and Fancy Foundations for Gordon Elliott. 3 runners, slightly disappointing, but high quality. Do you think My Drogo's just going to have too much for them? I'm looking forward to it, because if you look at Third Time Lucky, if he can jump like that, then he's going to be seriously difficult to stop.
Yeah, exactly, and he's also getting £1 from Gin on Lime. Usually in these circumstances he'd have to be giving Gin on Lime £7, obviously, for a mare's allowance. So the way the conditions of the race have ended up going, with Gin on Lime being a graded scorer already, he does get £1. So you'd like to think he'll go and win. If he goes and jumps anyway adequately, you'd think he might go and win. But these 2 horses are good horses, and he's going to need to run to, you know, a mark in and around the 150s, which is tricky to do as a novice chaser around Cheltenham. Gin on Lime's been excellent over in Ireland, showing a real good aptitude for jumping as well. She's really quick, and Rachel Blackmore's over to ride her as well. So there's enough to suggest that even though I think My Drogo will win, if he was beat, it wouldn't actually surprise me greatly, because this is a trappy little race.
Do you think they're looking at the mare's chase down the line and hoping to get some Cheltenham chasing experience into Gin on Lime?
Yeah, I'd say so, but you never know with Henry. Ever since he brought over, put the kettle on to run in the 2 mile novice chase a couple of years ago, and I think that was a bit of a pie in the sky entry at the time, and they just decided to chance their hand, and she ended up winning. I'd say they're looking to see just how she can go on the in this sort of race, whether it's a mare's chase, whether it's a novice chase, whether it's a handicap. You'd never know, and especially when the prize money actually for this race is pretty good. Only 3 runners there, so you're collecting if you finish the course.
The next race is the cross country. You fancy one in this, don't you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Diesel Dallier in this race. I cannot understand some of these horses at the top of the market. It's absolutely bonkers. Balca de Flo is top weight, giving the likes of a Diesel Dallier 2 stone, and he's 7-2. I just don't understand it. He won't be wound up. I know he obviously ran super in the National, but I don't know why on earth people would think he's going to be wound up for a random Friday in November. As for Diesel Dallier, this is the type of race he can win. He won the race 2 years ago. He then finished 4th in the cross country that year. He maybe would want a little bit more rain. He's now obviously gone over to be trained by Richard Bandy, who's got a very good record with his young chasers in his yard at the moment. So I think he's got a lot going for him. He's still around 7-1. I think that's a very good each-way shot.
I completely agree with you. He would be down on my shortlist as well. The 3:30 is the 2.5 mile Ballymore Grade 2. Giulino Bello, the favourite for Paul Nicholls, hopefully promoting that Newbury bumper form. I'm actually not a fan. Offie Rocco's in there for Gordon Elliott. Kay Fernando, who I'm going to get onto later for the Skeltons. I quite like him. I think at 15-2 he is overpriced. He beat Mr. Whittaker on his sole start over hurdles at Carlisle, and Mr. Whittaker had moved yards to Donald McCain, and sometimes that can just reignite the spark in these old horses, and he's a Cheltenham Festival winner. He'd have ran to a good rating that day, and Kay Fernando toughed it out and got the job done, and for an inexperienced 5-year-old, that was encouraging, and Mr. Whittaker's also won since. So I think Kay Fernando each way at 15-2, he'll like the ground as well. I think he'll go mightily close. Do you think Off the Rocco can be another Irish winner at Cheltenham? Yeah,
well, he's got a chance. He's been progressive over the summer. It's actually the other Irish runner that would really interest me, Blazing Cal here. Charles Burns. Me and Charles have had a few run-ins in the past with horses that maybe haven't been trying their best, but I'm very intrigued to see why this horse is running over here in a Grade 2. He doesn't usually send that many over that aren't at the festival. His win of beating Gringo Dobrel at Galway has been well boosted by that horse winning by half the track at Navan there on Sunday. He jumped pretty well, but what happened that day was Gringo Dobrel actually jumped super if you look at that race back, and I thought he was the winner every step of the way, and this horse has just gone and breezed by him to win really easy by 2.5 lengths. I think that's very good form in the book. He's 5-1. I think he's a very intriguing runner.
Interesting. The other Irish runner at 4 o'clock is the 2 mile novices handicap hurdle. We both like one in here. I like City Derby for Fergal O'Brien and Paddy Brennan at 15-2 each way. way. He won last time out before the summer break. He's definitely better than 111. I think Fergal thinks that as well. Fergal's got 3 in the race. Paddy, you would think he's got first choice, and he's picked City Derby, so that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I fancy this man Insane for Charlie Longston and Paul O'Brien. I think he's got a very good chance. He won a maiden hurdle around Market Raisin by 11 lengths last time out, and he went into that with a rating of 118, and he's won a race by 11 lengths, and he's been knocked down £2. I don't understand it at all. I know the race may have fallen apart a little bit. The 2 favourites didn't end up finishing at Market Raisin, but I've never seen a horse win by 11 lengths and be knocked down the handicap. Yeah, so I just don't know whether that's a faux pas of something or a blot here with the handicapper. But Charlie Longston's horses are in good form. He's operating at 29% in the last 2 weeks, and I think this horse has got a pretty good each way shout. He's been steadily progressive over hurdles, and I don't know what on earth he's done to warrant going down £2, but I'm sure the connections will take it, and he looks to have a good chance in this.
I reckon the handicapper is on a first date with a girl that he likes, and he wants to prove that he's a bit of a judge, so he's knocked this horse down a couple of pounds and will fire in a winner. It's very interesting. I'm not sure how that's happened. We'll move on to the Saturday, and the first race is at 12:30. It's the 2 miles Triumph Hurdle Trial, the Grade 2. Interesting to know which horses run here. I think that if Magistrato does turn up, I was very impressed with him at Chepstow. I think he'd be too good. I was very encouraged by the attitude he showed. When Rocky Man came to him at Chepstow, he battled back, he took off again, and when Harry Cobden got stuck into him, it was an immediate response. He had a lofty reputation coming from France. He finished second to Porticello, who won the listed juvenile at Wetherby the other day. He jumped well, he looks fairly straightforward, he went from the front, and he looked like he stayed well as well. All things you need around Cheltenham. I think Magistrato will be too good. He'll also like the ground, he's proven on that. Do you think Magistrato, you suspect that he'll just win if he turns up? Yeah,
it's not a race I'll probably have a play on, but he looked to be a strong stayer as well at Chepstow. He hit the line pretty hard over 2 miles, so I think 2 miles around Cheltenham will suit this horse down to the ground. So I would say if he gets declared, it would be a fairly warm order.
The 140 is the 2 mile Novices Chase. Third Time Lucky comes back to Cheltenham. This has been the target since he was mightily impressive at Cheltenham at the October meeting. Interesting to know which horses are going to turn up. I feel that Dancing on My Own will turn up, very similar to Gin on Lime in the 2.5 mile on the Friday. Mick Pastor and Captain Tomcat ran at Wincanton at the weekend. They're both here. I'm not sure they'll run. Tricky one to know. Third Time Lucky, we were saying after the Cheltenham October meeting that he could easily win this. Go to Sandown in the Henry VIII and pick up a Grade 1 as well. Maybe go to the Kingmaker, carry a penalty, and then go on to the Arkle. Do you think this is just a stepping stone for him, or is there horses that he needs to worry about? If he puts in the same performance as the October meeting, can any of these get near him?
No, I don't think so. It looks a fairly weak race, to be honest, and I'd share your thoughts. I think the 2 horses from Wincanton won't run. I don't think Mick Pastor will be suited by Cheltenham in the first place. The Henry de Bromhead horse, Dancing on My Own, it's not a bad horse, probably needs to prove it again. Second start back after a big enough absence, but you know, as much as it pains me to say it, I think Third Time Lucky will win on the weekend. The only thing that I don't want to see, which I'm sure will happen, is that he wins quite impressively on the weekend and somehow shortens again for the Arkle. People just need to calm down, because bookmakers are snipping him. Did you see they snipped him after Buddy Rich won a beginner's chase? And Buddy Rich would not have won if Wide Receiver hadn't fallen at 2 out, and poor old Wide Receiver no longer with us. But Buddy Rich wasn't going to win.
They left Cape Gentleman untouched as well, and he beat him pretty much the same distance. You would like to think a 10-to-1 shot for the Arkle will win this anyway. At this stage of the season, you'd imagine that they're going to snip him if he wins it just as impressively, but they seriously need to take a good hard look at themselves if they are doing that. Like, I'm a big fan of the horse, and you'll know I almost let go, but I didn't, held on, and he got his moment in the sun. I'm hoping he can kick on this season and be a real good top 2 miler. You want him to win. You want him to be impressive. He's not a price, but I will be hoping Third Time Lucky can get the job done on Saturday. The following race is the feature of the meeting, and it's the Paddy Power Gold Cup Handicap Chase, a race I'll be honest, I don't have a great record in picking the winner of. It's very difficult, extremely competitive. I backed Baron Alco in the race, I think 3 years ago. That's the best I've ever done. I don't know about you, but I was looking at this race, and there's horses in there that have changed yards, and there's horses like Al Dancer has gone from Nigel Twiston-Davis to Sam Thomas. Lalaw's gone from Kayla Woolacott to Paul Nicholls. Simply the Bets has gone from Harry Whittington to Paul Nicholls. You don't know how these horses are going to react to that, which is why I think it's difficult. Protectorat won at Aintree, a Grade 1, but was it a very deep Grade 1? Hitman didn't look like he stayed 2 miles and 1 furlong at Exeter, let alone 2.5. Tricky race to weigh up, which is why I'm probably going to go outside of the main contenders and pick an each way shout, and I'm going to go with Man of the Mountain for Emma Lavelle. Tom Bellamy is booked to ride. I quite liked him in the Grand Sefton. I said it on the preview last week. He didn't run. He's 20 to 1. The one thing I would say, he's a horse who goes forward, he travels well and he jumps well and he stays 3 miles. He's had the run as well. But in these races, they go so hard, you almost need a 3-miler to get home. He's rated 144. I don't think he's the most well-handicapped horse in the world, I must admit, but I think it's workable. He'll be in the picture coming down the hill, and that's all you need to ask for. With that being said, looking at those horses that have changed yards, it's very, very tricky. Do you fancy anything?
Yeah, very hard one to know. I've got an equally poor enough record in the race, and the horses at the top of the market don't inspire any type of confidence for me. This Layla or Lalore or whatever his name is, he's still around. Nobody knows how to pronounce his name, and he just doesn't do it for me in the slightest. Protectorat wouldn't be for me either. Look, I've ended up landing on two at big-ish prices, at each-way prices anyway. One of them being Simply the Bets. People that know me will understand the reasons behind this. I thought he was a cracking horse. He obviously won the plate back in the 2020 festival and was 6th in this race last year off a couple of pounds higher. He didn't even jump that well, and he kept at it. And when you think that there's going to be 5-6 places on the show, I would assume, on the day with the majority of the big bookies, I think he's got a very good chance of running well. The only horse that Nicholls has run from Harry Whittington's yard from that switch was that Brave Kingdom the other day at Chepstow, who looked a real tool. So it shows at least that one horse has been able to settle in. Bryony on board hopefully can get him to jump well. He usually goes forward as well, so fingers crossed he can run well. And at the other end of the weights, a horse that I need somebody to come out to get in is Galahad Quest. I think he's a likeable horse. He's obviously beat Marone at Haydock at the end of last year, which was really good. He won as a juvenile at the track as well. He won a Grade 2 race at the January meeting, and he came third at Wetherby when he took the biggest drift of mankind from 10s out to 28s, and still was bang there behind good boy Bobby. As I say, he does need somebody to come out. Now, I look at the race, I cannot believe that they're going to run Assemble in this off 156. He has no chance if they do so, I don't think. So I'm fingers crossed that the Irish runner might pave the way for Galahad Quest to get in off a low mark. And if his jumping stays sound, he might be sneaking into it come down the hill.
Couple of each way pokes then for the big one on the Saturday. The following race is a 3-mile listed handicap hurdle, and we both like one here. That's a good sign or a worrying sign. Dragon Bones 7 to 1 for the Ian Williams team. Charlie Todd takes off £3 as well. It was a good second at the October meeting behind the slowest horse that you've ever put up that's been a winner in Bardenstown Lad. The Connections won the race with first assignment, the same owner, the same trainer, in 2018. You think, well, she wasn't declared for the Ballymore trial on Friday, and this looks like the option, especially with Charlie Todd penciled in. Why do we like her so much, Andrew?
I think she's really well handicapped of 132. No, it's no more getting around it really, and Charlie Todd takes off £3 as you alluded to. I think she's a real progressive mare. I wasn't maybe as sure as other people were going into that October race, but I thought she ran super behind Bardenstown Lad. I think it was a good enough race. I think that form will end up being fairly trusty, and you know, I think this mare could well go in, and I still believe she's, as you say, she's currently 7 to 1. I still think she'll get shorter and shorter. I think people will cotton on to that idea of, you know, trainer targeting the race, owners won it before, and a progressive young horse that's ran well over course and distance. Awful lot to like.
At the 3:25 is a 2.5 mile handicap hurdle. Is there one here that you like? I know you mentioned one on the audio podcast.
This Good Time Johnny, I think he's got a good chance if he comes over. He's also entered at Punchestown on Saturday, so hard to know which race he'll end up rocking up to, but he's got a good chance no matter which one it is. He's a very well handicapped horse. I still think he's well ahead of his mark, even though he's been hyped for that win at Gorn last time out, and I'd love to see him in this race. If he doesn't go, I think the Skelton horse could well be the one. I know he's second favourite. I think he's only 4-1, but he won so impressively at Wetherby the other day. It was a half the track job really, and I think he could well win again.
The two that I like in the race, Gal Road at 14s, I think he'll run well, but the main one is Breffney Boy. He's won at Cheltenham over 2 miles and 1 furlong, and if you look back at that run, he stayed all day. He's now moved. He was at John Farrelly's, and this will be his first start for Philip Hobbs. It looks like he's crying out for a step up in trip, and Breffney Boy at 16-1 each way I think would be a good play. So he will be right up there in my weekend's best bets. The final race is the 2 mile Mares National Hunt Flat Race. Very difficult to pick the winner of these. I would just give a good mention to Flying Sarah. I think Nick Schofield will ride her. Her trainer Jack Barber is absolutely flying at the moment. Had the winner in the bumper at Wincanton when I was there. She's a 6-year-old. She's won twice under rules. Last time out at Chepstow in 2020, as I think it's a 399-day break. But she'll like the ground. She looked very impressive that day, and I do think the trainer is in such good form. She goes there with a real chance. Let's move on then to the Sunday, and the first race is a 3 mile Novices Chase. We won't talk about this race for too much because we're not sure about who's going to run. 300-5 is a horse I don't like. He's too slow, extremely slow in the air as well. He might be more suited to 6 miles rather than 3. I know that you're a big fan. If he was to turn up here, do you think he's going to win?
Yeah, it depends who he's running against, Josh. You've hit the nail on the head there. Does he know? He's looked quite good. He's not a horse that I like personally. He just seems complicated, and you can't seem to hit him and stuff like that, which is, I know they're obviously David Bass is cajoling him and stuff like that, but I'd maybe give Under Supervision a chance of getting a bit closer to him this time round. As you say, I think he would have been beaten. I think he'd have been beaten a length or two potentially by Does He Know last time out, even if he hadn't jinked. But that was his first start over fences, and he's bound to come on for that. He'd want a bit more juice in the ground perhaps, but if Under Supervision runs, I think he has a good chance, and I'm always going to keep on side 300-5. I still think he's got a big day in him.
Under Supervision is a big, beautiful horse. I was very impressed with him, and he made fences look very small, so that's always a good thing. The 145 is a 3 miles and 3 furlong handicap chase. The return potentially of Tiger Roll. I really like one in this, and it's not the Tiger. It's the Mighty Don at 16-1 under Niall Houlihan, claiming £5. Look, I'm going to say now, the Mighty Don is my nap of the weekend. That might sound ludicrous, but he's off 137. He's only age 9. He's not an old boy. He's a Cheltenham winner over hurdles, and you've got to look back to 2019. He was running in the Stayers hurdle. He had a season then novice chasing. He didn't win, but this time last year he beat Enrillo at Chepstow off level weights. He was second to Happy Go Lucky at Cheltenham over 3 miles and 1 furlong. And if you go back to that run, he was staying on all day. I do think that Connections clearly thought he was a thorough stayer. He then went to the National Hunt Chase and finished 6th, not beating a long way either. He'll love the ground. He loves this time of year, and he loves Cheltenham. I think the Mighty Don at 16-1 each way, he's going to be my nap of the November meeting. The 220, the Schlur Chase, is a Grade 2 contest, and Put the Kettle On comes back 4 out of 4 at Cheltenham. I still don't like her for this. I think she's a very good horse. She shows plenty of heart in the Champion Chase win, and Nube Negra looked like he was going to beat her that day. I think he's going to beat her here. I really do. He goes so well fresh. He's a great jumper. Cheltenham suits him. And at 2-1 in a small field, I think he's going to have too much pace to Put the Kettle On. I think they're going to have to go really hard at the front to beat Nube Negra. Someone was telling me, a little bird in my ear, that you don't fancy either.
No, I don't. And look, I think Put the Kettle On's a smashing mare, and she doesn't get the credit she deserves for what she's done. But
saying that, we're both putting up a different horse.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Politolog in this race. I think he's got the proven form of all of them, really. You know, he's obviously very good fresh. Won the Tingle Creek last year, beating Grenadine so impressively. I think he's got a lot to offer over 2 miles at Cheltenham. I think a price of 5 to 1 doesn't look the worst in the world.
Seems crazy. 4 from Cheltenham. I've gone for Nube Negra. You've gone for Politolog. The 255 is the Great Wood Hurdle, the feature on the Sunday. I like Cormier at 14 to 1. Danny McManaman's going to ride a 7th in the race as a 4-year-old off 136. He comes here off 134, a year older. He's had the run. He finished second in the he finished 4th in the Welsh Champion. I think that he's going to go there with a big chance at 14 to 1. Do you like anything in this?
Yeah, the 2 Irish runners in this again. Jesse Evans at 14, so I think is a good price. 4th in the Galway Hurdle. Won a flat maiden at Navan as well, showing off that he's in pretty decent nick at the moment. And also Boo Boy for Dennis Hogan. Don't know whether he takes his chance or not. Currently 20 to 1. He came second to Arcadian Sunrise and then second in a pretty decent race at Listowel the last time, where Easky Lane finished 4th. He obviously dotted up the other week at Down Royal. So the 2 of them against the field, I think they're both good each way prices.
And then the final race that we're going to preview at Cheltenham is the 3:30 Sky Bet Supreme Novices Hurdle Trial, the Grade 2. I Like to Move It is the 2 to 1 favourite after winning the Holdings Hurdle at the October meeting, and I backed him that day, but I don't see how he's going to win this personally. I don't think he's very quick. I was hoping he'd step up to 2.5 miles, and Sam Twiston-Davies really had to cajole him into many of the hurdles when beating Tritonic and Stephanie Causeway. I don't think that form's very good. I think Tritonic won't run particularly well in the Great Wood Hurdle. I think that the whole camaraderie of a big field handicap hurdle is going to catch up with him. We're going to go with Washington at 4 to 1 for Ollie Murphy and Aidan Coleman. I think he's got too much speed for I Like to Move It. He'll have to jump well. I think he goes there with a very good chance, and I don't think the race is that deep. I can't imagine Paul Nicholls is going to run his Sonny Gino in the race. I think there would be more market support if he was going to do that. Any fancy in this at all?
Yeah, Colonel Mustard for me. If he runs for Lorna Fowler, I think he's a real improving type. Second season novice now. Didn't win a race last year, but ran some cracking races, including coming second in a Grade 1 at Punchestown, won at Galway, head in chest by 6.5 lengths a couple of weeks ago. If he takes his chance, 6 to 1's a huge price.
There we go. So Cheltenham done and dusted. Over in Ireland, it's very good racing. I'm just going to run through this. Bob Ollinger makes his chasing debut. Coccolino also entered in the beginner's chase. I'm hoping he can finish second or third, and we've got our Cheltenham handicap plan on the way. Iberique de Soy and Phil Dorr are entered in the 3-year-old hurdle. I can't imagine Phil Dorr is going to run, but Iberique de Soy, I'm hoping for a better showing from him, and he could be one maybe for the Boodles at the Cheltenham Festival, thinking down the line. American Mike and Cool Survivor are entered in the bumper. I can't imagine American Mike will run, but they might want to get some experience into him. Ellie May, Galois, Tell Me Something Girl are in the Mayor's Hurdle. I think that'll be very informative. And then Journey With Me makes his hurdling debut, or looks like he's going to make his hurdling debut, in the 2 miles 5.5 furlong maiden hurdle. I think that's very telling. I think he's definitely a 3-miler, and you suspect that a horse that would be running in the Laurels of Nace would start over shorter than 2.5 and go up. But the big race over in Ireland is the Morgiana. Echoes in Rain. People are talking about her as a potential threat to Honeysuckle, maybe a champion hurdle horse. Is she good enough to beat the likes of Sharjah, Saldier, Abracadabras?
Yeah, she might be able to first time out. Look, with these horses, Sharjah usually improves the run and is better at Leopardstown. Saldier, you never know what Saldier you're going to get, really. Him at his best is good, him at his worst isn't so good. Look, Echoes in Rain's a very, she was good at the end of last year. She's not a mare that's captured my imagination whatsoever. I thought she won 2 poor enough races. It would be interesting to see, obviously, in regards to Colonel Mustard, who she beat by 3 lengths at the end of last year at Punchestown, whether that, if she went and won the Morgiana, Colonel Mustard won't be 6 to 1 an hour later at Cheltenham. But she may well win on the weekend, but I won't be backing her for the champion hurdle anytime soon.
So now we'll go to our best bets of the weekend. I'm going to go with 4 Scatman at 7 to 2 in the first race on the Friday. On the Saturday, I'm going to go with Dragon Bones at 7 to 1 each way in the 3-mile listed handicap hurdle. Breffney Boy at 16 to 1 each way in the 2 miles and 5 furlong handicap hurdle. And then the nap of the weekend for me, the Mighty Dawn at 16 to 1 each way in the 3 miles and 3 furlong handicap chase on the Sunday.
Yeah, and for myself, I'm going to keep it to 4 as well. Diesel Chevalier in the cross country on the Friday. I think he's got a very good chance. Man Insane in that final race as well at 4 o'clock. I think he's got a very good each way chance. Dragon Bones, we're doubling up here on Dragon Bones. She'd be my nap of the weekend. I think at around 7 to 1. I think she's a cracking price. And then Colonel Mustard there in that Supreme Trial, the 3:30. Strong Traveller should be going very close for Lorna Fowler.
But there you go, the Cheltenham and Punchestown preview. Thank you very much for watching. Hit that like button if you did enjoy the video. Get your comments down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll both be there on the Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So if you're going to Cheltenham and you do bump into us, do come and say hello. But until then, thank you very much for watching and we'll see you soon.